In our second episode of the Hybrid Experiment, we're going to be talking about the difference between coaching and programming with Hyrox elite athlete and top coach James Kelly. To touch on James's background and introduction to the sport, well, James is Australian. During the 2022-2023 season, there were no Hyrox events in Oz. But James was building a hybrid coaching business and was keen to make a name for himself. So, hearing about Hyrox and seeing its growth, he decided this was a good opportunity. After a short bout of training, he hopped on a plane, arrived in Birmingham, one of the biggest Hyrox events of the season, and proceeded to take a decisive first place in the men's pro division with a time of 59 minutes 53 seconds, the fifth fastest time of the season at that point. James barely needed to promote his hybrid coaching business after that, because within hours people were reaching out to him asking how he went sub 60 in his debut race and asking whether he'd be their coach. By the end of the episode, we hope that you'll know not only the difference between programming and coaching, but more importantly, which is right for you. Okay, so we're here with James Kelly, elite Hyrox competitor, coach to dozens and dozens of athletes from around the globe. We're about a month out from Hyrox Worlds, so I thought I'd ask you how the physical, mental recovery is going, James, and whether you're back training yet.
Thanks, Mark. And first of all, thanks for having me on, mate. I love what you're about and what you're doing at the moment. Mate, yeah, it's been about a month since the World Championship, and to be honest, I didn't necessarily take a lot of time off training. Physically, I was fine. It was more for myself. It was more the emotions and I guess the mental stamina and the mental kind of pressure that I had to endure over the whole weekend. That consequently just made me have to kind of just take a breather for a couple of weeks after the World Champs, just to kind of debrief and suck it all in. To be honest, I still can't believe what happened with my journey this year, and I still kind of can't believe what happened at the World Champs with me. But to answer your question, mate, yeah, I'm all guns blazing towards training for a marathon at the moment, which is in about four weeks' time. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the Hyrox Sydney first Australian event is in about 7 weeks' time. So I'm all guns blazing for those two events at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, and for people who don't know, you came to Manchester expecting to race in the pro level race, having just missed out on the elite race, and then minutes before the race kicked off, they were like, "There's an elite spot, you want it?" And from what I've heard, you were straight away like, "Yep, let's go."
Pretty much, mate. And long story short, you've nailed it. I was ranked 16th after my Hong Kong race, which I was obviously a little bit disappointed going to Manchester, not in the Elite 15. But the story unfolds that I had this sneaky feeling the whole time leading into the World Championship that I was going to get a call up. Even the Friday morning of the Elite 15 race, I just had this sneaky feeling that I was going to get a call up, to the point where I was packing my bag to go watch the Elite 15 race, and something told me to pack my essentials, to pack my honey, to pack my caffeine tablets, to pack my runners. So that's what I did. And lo and behold, 20 minutes before the race, unfortunately for him, Tim Vinish had to pull out due to injury. And I was able to step in within 15 minutes of the race, mate. And I ended up securing 8th place. And I'm really proud of that whole story now. Really proud of how I just stepped in without any time. And here I am now, kind of being able to say that I'm the 8th fastest man in the world in 2023 Hyrox. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome as well. And you impressed Hunter McIntyre, which is hard to do as well. He actually said it's one of the most impressive things he'd ever seen. So you don't get that
And
kind of compliment off Hunter often.
as we all know, it's very hard to get a compliment from Hunter, mate. So I'm going to take
Yeah,
that. I'm definitely
exactly.
going to
Yeah,
take that.
I think I'd have it like put on the wall
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly.
Yeah. Most impressive thing I've seen in sports, and then have it Hunter McIntyre at the
Hunter
bottom.
McIntyre,
So
2023.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I've got you on today. We're going to talk about coaching versus programming, which is a topic I'm really interested in, hadn't actually thought much about. So I think the best place for us to begin is if I ask you, what would you call programming for an athlete?
yeah, cool. What is programming? I guess for me, programming to me is a simple term to use to create workouts, create a process to train for X, to train for a chosen activity, sport, race, etc. I personally believe it is not as hard to program versus to coach. Um, I've been a programmer for quite a while. I've been a coach for quite a while. And to me, I personally think that most people can have a look at what they're trying to train for, whether it is Hyrox, and go, okay, I see what we are meant to do on race day or in race. I'm going to train it this way. I'm going to do it that way. I personally think on the programming kind of topic, there's not necessarily a right nor wrong in relations to programming for a certain event, and that's how I view programming. Is um, you've got to be an open, you've got to have an open mind with respect to programming for individuals. Um, I've learned that from my own accord, or being my own coach for a lot of pursuits. And I've also learned that over time, having programmers and having coaches in my corner as well, that it's more about being able to be open minded to understand the athlete, um, and I guess to understand the best ways to program for an individual athlete.
hmm hmm So for me, like I'm very, very new to the idea of coaching. Coaching in the UK isn't really a thing. I mean, I suppose you do have, if you're involved in football or soccer, for American listeners, then you do probably have a coach to a degree. But in the UK, it's a lot more. So most sports would be individual sports, or you just don't have that kind of mentor as a coach. And so my experience as a CrossFit athlete up until recently would be programming through like SugarWOD. Like I'd pay online for like Mayhem programming, or
Yeah,
I'd pay for something like that. So there wouldn't be much interaction at all. So that's one form of programming that you mean as well, isn't it? Like you pay for like a program that comes through on your phone, like on an app, stuff like that. And
yeah,
also, yeah, and the thing that was a bit different when I spoke to you about this before the call is that I'd always assumed that programming wasn't personalized. So, but you explain that slightly different to me. That actually you can have a personalized program, and that isn't necessarily coaching.
correct. And
hmm
so my take on what you just said is that, um, if just hypothetically, if you are a experienced athlete and you understand a lot of the basic fundamentals of fitness, full stop, I think I think programming could be the way to go for you. Now, to me, there's two classes of programming. There's personalized programming, in which a coach or a programmer, whatever you want to call them, can actually still identify the personalized weaknesses, strengths, and what you need to achieve X and put that in the program versus, I'll be honest with you and quite blunt, versus a PDF document that someone has written up and to try and sell it online to the masses. Now, what approach works? Well, I'll be honest with you, both approaches would work, especially if you're starting out your Hyrox journey or your fitness journey in general. But if you want to try to get the most out of you as an individual, as an individual athlete, the personalization approach to the programming, I believe, is the way to go. Dependent on your already known ability and already known understanding of fitness in general.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're going up another level. So we've kind of gone from PDF to personalized, and now, can you tell us a bit about coaching and, in your mind, what coaching is?
Mate, I get so excited talking about coaching. Like this morning, I was on a phone call with one of my mates who lives in Sydney, and we were just chewing the fat and just talking all things fitness, and then all of a sudden it's an hour later because I just got sucked into the coaching subject because I don't think people understand there is such a difference. There is such a difference from a coach than a programmer, and I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of programmers call themselves a coach, but are they really coaching? Well, I'm not sure. So to kind of kick that off, coaching to me is all about understanding an individual and how they operate, how they tick, and how they look at things, and how they really understand processes. It has nothing to do with working out, training, and Hyrox specific stuff. Because to me, as a coach, if I can understand a human being's reason why, and the reason that gets themselves up in the morning to go for that run, then if I can tap into that, anything is possible, and I mean anything. I'll tell you a quick story, and I guess this will kind of demonstrate why I'm such an advocate for a proper coach. When I was 13 years of age, I was just starting high school here in Australia. I was a little bit of a chunky kid. My mum says that I had this chunkier build, bit more of like a rugby union build. Anyway, for some reason, all I wanted to do was run though. I just loved running. Hence why I played Australian rules football, which is more running than rugby. But in grade 8, 13 years of age, I remember in a PE class, I was bullied because these peers of mine were telling me that I can't run long distance. I can't do cross country because I was too big. I was too broad. And my PE teacher, and consequently my long-time running coach now, came up to me because he overheard this. And he pretty much told me that he pretty much first of all said, don't listen to them. If you like to run, you run. Because at the end of the day, running is all about what's in here. And he pointed to my heart. And I was looking up at him in awe because what he did there was he obviously understood how much running meant to me emotionally, and he saw me suffering by these bullies, and understood that he had two options there to let that fly. And I'll be honest with you, if he ended up letting that fly, I have no idea if I would have ended up, being being the cross country champion at the school, to then go on and do 6 marathons already, and then to to go on and fall in love with running as much as I have, even more. But the way he operated there was he really understood my emotions and my mentality, behind the actual, going ons right there, and he pretty much told me to stuff them. Running is all about what's up here and then what's in here. And then he also told me, like, down the track, and this was 2 or 3 years later, when I was lining up for the Open 3,000 meter championship. Running and racing, you should always think about, to run and to race smartly in the first half of the race, and then the second half is all about your heart. It's all about how willing you are to endure the pain, and that's something that I have, never forgotten, because it's something that I think about in a Hyrox race, and we'll get into that. But quite simply, the way I race Hyrox is exactly that. I am smart until the burpee broad jumps, and then I know for a fact after those burpee broad jumps, it's all about how much am I willing to suffer. So, kind of to get back on the coaching topic, though, coaching to me is just understanding the individual, before anything. Once you understand the individual and their reason why, well, then you can tap into the actual specifics of the programming. But you've got to start from scratch. You've got to start from their history and their background before anything. Yes, you can be, a group coach, let's just say. And I'll be honest with you, the way I operate as a coach with my hybrid training team, there's certain elements of my coaching that is, group and group based. Just an example, I throw my team Monday homework, and that's to each and every one as an individual, but that's in the group setting. Furthermore, obviously, I do personalized coaching, so everything that I do online for these athletes is in relations to them as a person, suited to their lifestyle, to make sure that I understand their reason why they are training for X. And furthermore, the number one thing in my head is, what is their goal? What is their dream? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're shooting for, as a team, as a athlete coach relationship. So to sum that up, mate, it's more about the relationship and the rapport from coach to athlete than the actual training and the actual running thresholds and the strength. That stuff's so minor compared to the relationship type of stuff that I'm all about.
Yeah. I really love that story, because it just shows the not only the short-term impact it had to keep you motivated and improving yourself as an athlete, but also the long-term benefit that having a coach has given you in that moment. So yeah, I really love that story. So if someone's watching this now and they're like, I don't know whether I need personalized programming, a PDF document, or coaching, what would be the thing that you'd say, okay, this is what you need to think about to make that decision?
So the first thing that I would say is don't do it alone. And I'm not talking about getting in contact with an online coach straight away. I mean, you're more than welcome to, but I'm more talking about asking your partner, asking some family or some friends to, all right, you know me well enough. Do you think I should, if I want to do Hyrox London in November, hypothetically, 5 or 6 months, do you think I should be working with a coach online, a programmer online, whether that is personalized or not? Um, and to really be honest with yourself, because just an example, if you've had a lot of background in racing, running, health and fitness in general, then I'll be the first to say, well, maybe just a program approach is probably the way to go. If you're someone who knows deep down that you don't need the motivation and the I like the accountability, then program's probably the way to go. But if you're someone who likes the idea of having someone in your corner, having someone to bounce ideas with, and also the accountability and the camaraderie that you could create or potentially have, then the coaching philosophy or the coaching way is the way to go. Now, the biggest thing about this, Mark, is that, and I don't want to sound overconfident here, but I'm still going to say it. I don't know if everyone's on the same page as me. I know that I am doing such a great job individually with my athletes that I'm hoping that most people are doing the exact same thing, full stop, because what I am striving to do is to create a community of athletes who are and can see their true potential. And I personally know that there's some great coaches out there that are doing the same. And you know, like I I think coaching's the way to go for everyone, even though even if you've had a great, history with sport or fitness, to the point where, I've got two coaches. Actually, no, I've got three. I've got a running coach, Craig Gunn, who is still he's the PE teacher that I was just talking about. He's been my coach for quite a while. However, due to our relationship already, he's more of a programmer more than anything to me because he knows me inside out. So the running programs are just written up and we've got our rapport already. My strength coach is predominantly a proper coach because we do go through technique and percentages and we talk a lot and we are still building that relationship. And then I also have a business coach. Now, that's from someone who has been there, done that for 12 or so years. And I know for a fact that I still want and need people in my corner to get the most out of myself. And I'll be the first to say, and I'll give someone who we should talk about as an example, and that's Hunter McIntyre. He talks about how many coaches he has in his corner and have had in his corner. And I'll be honest with you, he is the world champion and rightly so. And he has coaches. So if he has coaches and he is smoking everyone at the moment, then I think most people should have coaches.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, from my point of view, I always have struggled with programming just because I've always tended to do stuff in excess of other people around me. So when I was doing mixed martial arts, I always wanted to train like 5 or 6 days a week, but our gym was only like a 2 week type gym. So then I'd seek out programming, but it's really, really hard to do programming on your own. So it's having that accountability and motivation for me that's always been useful. And it's the same at the moment with Hyrox, where when I've been on a program, it's pretty tough because there's not many Hyrox gyms at the moment. So normally you're doing Hyrox on by yourself or maybe with one other person. And if you don't have someone to come to and say, look, this is the times I got, or this really hurt, or this was easy, how do I progress with this? You don't have anyone to bounce off. You're just constantly stuck in your own head. So I think from that point of view, like a coach could be very useful to someone, especially if they're training on their own, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the added value that is is not spoken about as much is the accountability, and is the, let's just say, mentorship and relationship. You know, like even myself, I'm so lucky that not only my partner Georgie, who loves to train and understands everything health and fitness, but I've got a lot of, or not a lot actually, I've got a couple of really quality friends that share my journey and I share their journey. And I'm lucky. I'm the lucky one here. I've got those people that are right behind me and I'm right behind them. But I also have 67 athletes around the world who I get to communicate with on the daily, individually and as a group, to share our experience together. So I think that's the added value of a coach and what a coach can really do for you. You know, I've got sucked into buying a online program before, and sorry, when I say sucked in, that sounds really bad, but the story unfolds that I bought a coaching experience, and all I got was a automated email as soon as I purchased to say, "Here it is, catch you later," pretty much. And you know, each to their own. Like that's great. But like that, like to me, sorry, but take the word coach out of your bio, because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't say you're a coach if that's what you're doing. Now, you know,
Mm.
I'm not shaming anyone there, but the anonymous you know, source there, but coaching is the mentorship and the day-to-day operations more than anything.
Yeah, and I do think it's an important distinction because, so for, like you said, someone who's been involved in fitness for a long time, so such as myself, I've been doing I'm 36 now, and I've been doing like sports in some form since I was about 16, which was mixed martial arts then. But if I just wanted to get strong, I could easily Google strong lifts 5x5. Or if I just wanted to like get my half marathon up, I could search like Ben Park's running plan or something. And if somebody's basically saying they're offering a coaching service, but then really they're just kind of selling those programs on, that's your if you have a knowledge of fitness, you might not be getting any real value out of that, and actually you might just be throwing your money away. So there is like a really big distinction, I think, that probably people don't understand, especially if they're new to the world of like online programming and coaching. So it's definitely, as you say, it's definitely worth considering what you're getting and what you could get. So kind of leads us on nicely to, in your opinion, what does make a good coach, and are there different coaches for different people, if that makes sense? So is there a coach that might be good for me but not so good for someone else?
Yeah. That's so interesting, because the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm not afraid to say this, there's been two people that we have there's been two cases in which I've started with an athlete, and within a month we aren't working well and we end up parting ways. Now, the moral of that story is exactly what you said, and the answer is not everyone is meant to be coached by one individual. Like, like for some reason, and both times, um, we left very mutual. It was just we just weren't meant to work together. And maybe it might take you a few times to actually really develop a liking and a really good rapport with the coach. So to answer that question, um, it can be hard to find the best fit. But once you do, that's when the magic can happen. And I guess from my end as a coach and also an athlete, I'm lucky enough to be walking the walk with the athletes, and that's something um, that I think is very key, because I'll be honest with you, I would never not pay, but I would never go to a coach that hasn't been there, done that before. And I'm not talking about they have to be in the elite 15, or they just have to be proven to be able to walk the walk. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, I'm the first to say, and I'm not afraid to say it. Like, the amount of new online Hyrox coaches out there is just crazy. And you know what? Good, good on people for having a crack, but you want to make sure that you are delivering the best possible um, the best possible process for people, due to the fact that from your own experience that this can deliver success. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I forgot the question. What was the actual question?
So it was whether there are you've answered it, but it was whether
Yeah.
there are different coaches for different people, which you said yes, absolutely. So
So
yeah, but you
just an example, like I'll give the example of Hunter McIntyre and his coaching and the way he operates. Not that I know, because I've never experienced him as a coach, but I've got a feeling the way he would operate is a lot more just grunt and getting work done, and nothing else matters. Where if you're a person who wants to, I guess, understand a little bit more why, and and wants to dive deeper into the science, then I don't know, maybe Hunter's not the right guy. But as going back to the question, it might take you a few times to really, uh, you know, gravitate to a coach or to someone to
mhm.
build a really solid foundational relationship.
Yeah. So you've used Hunter as an example, but I think what you're actually just saying is that different coaches are going to have different personalities, different styles of training, and different ways of explaining stuff, right? So I guess it's finding that match that clicks with you. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because there's going to be coaches. You see it actually in CrossFit a lot. You see athletes jumping around gyms. And I think that's exactly why, because all these coaches are world class coaches because they've taken people to the CrossFit games. But sometimes an athlete goes in, starts working with this coach, and they get worse, or just because maybe their style of motivating them or training them just doesn't click with them. So yeah, absolutely see what you're saying there. So, in terms of your relationships with your athletes, how do they are they all quite unique and different, or do you coach everybody the same?
Well, to answer that question, no, they're all unique and different. I have 67 athletes, as I said, around the world. They are all on the same membership, and they all get exactly the same time. I'm thoroughly proud to say that I'm very good at the time management side of things. However, I know for a fact that athlete A might want this amount of communication per week, per month, per year. However, athlete B might want double that. And it's me to understand what works for them, So,
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that there's a few athletes that need and want, rightly so, a lot more attention and a lot more communication with me on the daily. Perfect. I'm here for you. But I know for a fact there's a couple of athletes who, and I've got a grin on my face because sometimes I've got to chase them up to say good day and to say how's your week going, and they're just like, yep, I'm absolutely killing it, but they don't need the ongoing communication. And to be honest, that's what I love is I've got this type of person, and I understand their characteristics and what makes them tick and their reasons why, and it's about me to understand that versus someone who's totally the opposite. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's all about me trying to understand people. It's more of like a psychology job more than anything, and I love it.
Yeah.
Um, and then what I was going to say, it brought me, yeah, like that's that brings me to the idea of what my first question that I throw a potential athlete of mine is why? Like what? And to the point where I ask them, why have you reached out to me? Um,
Mm-hmm.
not to talk about why me. It's more why have you reached out to an online coach to help you get to X? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes that question is really hard because I'll be honest with you, I don't I don't take I don't take answers. Um, I don't take a lot of answers. So I'll give you an example. Someone came to me maybe about 2 weeks ago, and we had a consultation. And I said, "All right, so why do you want to train for a Hyrox? What's your reason, and why did you come to me?" And their reason was to get into the Elite 15. And I said, "Not good enough. That is not an answer." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Well, to be honest, mate, you can't control that. I don't care how good you are. Hunter McIntyre
Mm-hmm.
can't even control if he makes the Elite 15 next year." And he didn't understand what I was trying to say. And what I was trying to get to is that you've got to really dig deeper into why you want X. It's
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
to make the Elite 15. It's to continuously grow as an athlete to get to the point that you are as prepared and as conditioned as possible to get an Elite 15 time. And you
Yep.
know what? If 15 other people get a better time than you, well, then you should be applauding them because
Mm-hmm.
they have been
Mm-hmm.
able to do the same, if not a little bit better than you. So that's
Yep.
how I
Yep.
operate because it's not time driven or Elite 15 driven. It's okay to have those aspirations, yeah, sure. But those whys or those reasons why are so uncontrollable. It's
Mm-hmm.
more about
Mm-hmm.
tapping into the real reason why. And if the reason why is because it makes you feel more alive knowing that you are engaging in a process that will ultimately get you to your true potential, then that's the answer that I want. That's the type of
Yeah,
person, because at the end of the day, that means that I'm coming on for the ride with you as well, and I'm going to get you into tip top shape for the ability to make the Elite 15.
yeah. I'm glad you say that as well, because one of the things, because you're being honest, right? Like if someone comes to you and says, "I want to be in the Elite 15," and you say, "Cool, I'll do it for you," and then in
Exactly.
6 months time, it turns out that actually they're running, like a 30-minute 5K or something. You've missold them. so,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. Like you've got to be realistic, and yeah, exactly as you said. Like as long so you're doing your job by getting them as fit and as ready as possible. And I think a big part of being a coach as well is kind of setting those expectations and those kind of mapping out a path to where you can realistically get right. If you're just saying to this person, "Yep, I'll get you to the Elite 15," and in 6 months' time they're not there, they're going to be demotivated and they're going to think that
Exactly.
either they've yeah. So I definitely think that's a good quality to have, like you're not selling something that isn't possible. If that makes sense.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So are there any aspects of being a coach that have surprised you since you started?
Not necessarily surprised. I think going back to being open minded, I was talking about being open minded, which is very key to being a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's a continuous, that's just continuous. That's a continuous job that can be surprising. So, just an example,
Mm-hmm.
going into my first race in Birmingham 8 months ago, compared to and training for that, compared to now, geez, like I'm such a different coach, athlete, and programmer, because I've understand the in depth importance to periodization, um, best ways to train for this, best ways to train for that. So to answer your question, no, there's nothing that has surprised me, but the 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 ongoing kind of like learning that I'm even doing as a coach is just so fascinating. And just an example, there was a workout that I did today, which is a strength endurance workout, and my athletes will cringe when they hear that workout, because it's one of my staple workouts every week. Obviously, different for each athlete, but the strength endurance workouts that I throw at individuals are just crazy volume. And, you know, like just an example, I did one to test today on myself, and going into it, I just came up with it and thought, oh, we'll have a crack. And I didn't think it would create the stimulus that it did. And I've come out with it, or sorry, I've come away from that workout and saying it is going to be a staple workout of mine from now on. So it's more about just being
Mm-hmm.
surprised with the elements of the programming more than anything. Um,
Yep.
I guess to sum that up, also, like it's not being surprised again, but it's more so the continuous relationship building that you can continuously put time and effort into, that is rewarding. Not surprised, it's rewarding, because um, that's what I love to do. Like, give me that
Mm-hmm.
before writing programs any day. It's chewing the fat with my athletes and understanding how their work's going, and how their family life is, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So if somebody's watching this now, obviously you've been a coach now for 8 months. Well, you've been on a Hyrox coach for 8 months, I should say. So I know you've been a coach for a lot longer. Um, what would be the biggest tip that you'd give to someone looking to improve their Hyrox performance?
What's the biggest tip? Don't do it alone. And that doesn't mean get a coach. That means make sure you have a couple of people on the journey with you. I've been lucky that I've had my partner, Georgie, with me the whole 8 months of my Hyrox career as a coach and athlete. And not only that, I've got so many others that are with me ever since I've started this journey. My second tip is to be honest with yourself. And I'll be honest with you, there's a difference between being honest with yourself and really diving deeper and truly being honest with yourself. I think a lot of you know I think a lot of people, including myself in the past, we hide away from things that make us vulnerable. And I'll be the first to say, as an athlete, I thought I was going to just get better at the sled pull by just get by just doing more Hyrox races, and I was vulnerable with the sled pull because I didn't put the work in. I didn't I didn't want to because I had an ego, but due to the fact that after my Cologne race in April, where if it wasn't for my sled pull, I would have got a lot better time. I really had to look at myself and say, James, swallow your pride and your ego there, and actually really work on and going back to the basics and the technicalities of that station. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really being honest with yourself, getting people in your corner, whether that is just your family, your friends, a coach, a programmer, um, and don't be afraid of hard work. That's the last point that I don't think is spoken about um, a lot. At the end of the day, if you want to be a
Mm-hmm.
true Hyrox athlete and get the most out of yourself, you can't be shy of hard work.
Mm-hmm. So you just got a couple more questions for you, James. One of them that I'm really interested in is for you as a coach and someone who's really interested in sport. What's it like having a pool of 67 athletes that you can kind of assign workouts to and see
Yeah,
how they impact them and how they improve their performance, or
it's
don't, or do the opposite maybe?
yeah, I love it because I tell you what, most of the workouts, more so the structures of the workouts that I deliver to my athletes, I test myself, which
Mm-hmm.
is great because again, that's something that I hold very dearly to me is walking the walk. I wouldn't throw an athlete something that I haven't done before. So to
Mm-hmm.
be able to throw X to 67 athletes across the world and to do it myself and then get their experience, it's fantastic, and it's something that we enjoy together. Like just something on my coaching end, every athlete is on their individual journey due to their next goal periodized towards their next race. However, there are very similar structured workouts per week.
Mm-hmm.
However, individual aspect is there's an individual aspect towards those structures. On top of that, I do throw one weekend workout to everyone as a team, and I try to do that every weekend as well. And it's great because everyone's on their Monday to Friday journey with their own individual workouts with my guidance, but then on a Friday afternoon, I'm coming up with a team workout that they all complete individually, but it's exactly the same. So it's great to get there, to get everyone else's, times, and kind of create a bit more community behind one workout per week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that's how I operate. I'll be the first to say it's not right or wrong, because you just got to be open minded with that degree.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's awesome. Like, I definitely have seen a lot of value when I've done programming in the past, like through like Sugarwad and stuff, to have that group community where you do a workout together, and then you can kind of talk about it with people. But one
Yeah,
thing I can just imagine you doing is if you've had like you doing like a really, really bad workout, like a really hard workout, and then being like, I can't wait to have my 67 athletes go through this.
it's
So,
and mate, I just did that about half an hour before jumping on the call with you, and it's just one of these things where I just get so excited because I was in the hurt locker, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to dish this out next week.
so last question for you. Well, it's not even a question, James. Hopefully people listening to this are interested in the idea of coaching now. And I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about what you personally offer and where people can find more information about this, and also just follow yourself.
Yeah, it's quite simple. It's obviously just on the Instagram, not the Instagram. Um, it's
The gram is
JK, yeah, JK underscore hybrid training. And honestly, like, I'm very personal, and if you whether or not you just want to send me a direct message, or I do have a consultation link in my link tree. Um, I guess from there, what my process is to jump on a call, whether it is FaceTime or on WhatsApp, and I get to understand, or we get to understand each other. I get to understand where you've come from, and ultimately, I want to understand your reasons why and your goals coming up, and then from there, it's a matter of both working together to come up with the best process moving forward. And I'll be the first to say there's a lot of athletes that are on 6 sessions a week with me, but there's athletes that are on 3. There's athletes that are on 4 due to their lifestyle and their routine. So it doesn't have to be 6 sessions a week. Not only that, you'll be a part of the community that I've created, that we've created now as a team. The JK Hybrid Training Team on a Facebook group. You'll be able to communicate with all the athletes, and I guess more importantly, it's more about like the ongoing relationship that we build. I can honestly say to you guys that all my athletes I can call my friends now, and that's something that I hold really, really close to my heart, because I'll be able to catch up with so many people across the world now, whether it is as a coaching relationship or a friendship, and that's the key to me. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so please reach out even if you just want to have a chat about your Hyrox journey and your race data, because I'm such a stickler for data and measurements. So I just love talking about it. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, that was definitely one of the things I noticed around Worlds, where a few of the JK members had run into each other and caught up with each other, and it was really cool to see them like hanging out and saying how much they enjoyed seeing each other. Because as I said, it's quite unless you're doing doubles, it's quite an individual sport. So it was cool to see like those people had made those online relationships and then met each other in real life. So
Yeah, it's
that's a really cool
crazy.
aspect, I think.
It
Mm,
was so cool.
mm.
I like, just quick story. I sometimes talk too much, but I have
Not at all.
I've been training Nigel from Scotland. ever since my Birmingham win 8 months ago. And literally, we've had 8 months together, right? We've had multiple FaceTime calls, we've had multiple calls, text messages every day. I feel as if I knew him, like a father now. But it was so surreal to me when I first met him at a coffee shop in Manchester. It was just like, oh my god, like you're actually real. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's the joys of, I guess, or the positives about online training. I guess it has opened up avenues to connect with so many people across the globe, and luckily enough, I've been able to travel to meet most of my athletes. So I can't wait to do that more so.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on. Much appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. No, and thanks so much for what you're doing. I love your content, and hopefully you can keep it up for us, mate.
I'll try my best. Thanks, James.